وَلَكِنَّ عَذَابَ اللَّهِ عَظِيمٌ. It's the punishment of God for such people. The descriptions of the Day of Judgment are numerous in the Quran. We have chapters that are a good number of verses or just descriptions of the Day of Judgment. Read, for example, Surah At-Takwir. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. إِذَا الشَّمْسُ كُوِّرَتْ وَإِذَا النُّجُومُ انْكَدَرَتْ. And it continues. A number of this. وَإِذَا الْعِشَارُ عُطِّلَتْ وَإِذَا الْوُحُوشُ حُشِرَتْ. Numerous descriptions. The world as you know it will not be there, and it will change right before your eyes. There's a process this world is moving toward. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in the Quran, أَنَّ الْأَرْضَ يَرِثُهَا عِبَادِيَ الصَّالِحُونَ. Toward the end of this realm, this world, this dunya as we know it, the earth will be handed over by God. God will make this happen. He is making this happen, where the rulers of the world are the believers. That doesn't mean a class of people are going to now come to and take charge that were not in charge before. In a sense, that's true, but not in the non-theist, non-religious perspective. The non-theist, the non-religious perspective categorizes people in ways where this person is who they are. Even when it comes to LGBTQ, that's the categorization. That's the identity of the person. You're born with it, they say, which is a lie. Right? This idea of you living your life in a sinful way is not something you're born with. It's a choice you make. Every person has got temptation, whatever that temptation is. Yeah, different people have different temptations. For some, it's lust. For some, it's power. For some, it's money. Some of the khulafa after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they were actually not corrupt in terms of their dealing with finances, in terms of them trying to fill their pockets in that sense. They didn't. History is pretty clear. They weren't about money. It wasn't about money, but it was about power. It was about ruling. It was about being the one who calls the shot. So your temptations are different. Some people are drawn to lust. Some people are drawn to food. Some people are drawn to different things. Yeah, that's there. But you living your life based on sin, that's not how it is. Western and non-theists in general, whether it's the East or the West, when we categorize people, we look at them as that this is your identity, this is who you are. So when it says, for example, the mu'mineen will rule the earth, they think that, oh, it's two groups of people going at it, fighting, drones being sent here, missiles coming out of there, and everybody just killing each other until there's these types of people that are called believers that remain. No, that's not what that is saying. أَنَّ الْأَرْضَ يَرِثُهَا عِبَادِيَ الصَّالِحُونَ. God's plan is that the majority, the dominant majority of the people of the world will adopt faith. The people that are currently on this side, even verbally abusing the believers, the racist, the bigotry, it's out of ignorance. They will change. They will change. Not that they will be killed. They will change. They will realize. God's plan for this world is that it's going to come to a stage where people will start to understand more and more. You're seeing it happen, by the way, by the grace of God. Changes happening very rapidly. Who thought? Who would think that a military operation by the kuffar, the Zionists, who are not theists, they're not Jews in the religious sense. They're not even, honestly, they have chosen to categorize themselves outside of the human race based on their decisions. Okay? They can change any minute. That's one of the points we're making here. Everyone can be human if they choose to do so. But once you start treating other humans as animals and calling them human animals, you have chosen not to be a human being. Okay. That's your choice. You can change it. But as long as that's how you behave, that's what you want to do, then you have chosen to be outside of this human category. Who would think a military operation is going to bring so many people to read the Quran, so many people to realize the truth? And it's happening very rapidly, very rapidly. I was told this recent episode of this fiasco on the Zionist side. They are completely, they've revealed to the world through their own actions what people who knew them have been saying about them for decades, that they do not abide by any rules or any principles. It's just whatever they want to do. That's how they deal with everyone. Listen to Pink Floyd. He's been there. He says, he's a British guy, white guy. It's like, if I'm treated like this by the Israelis, what is a Palestinian going to receive as treatment? That's how they are. If they take control, they don't care. Right here in this country, that's what they're doing it. That's what they're doing. A sister has a view. She wants to, you've seen it probably, USC, right? This student, Muslima, has a viewpoint. You defer with her, it's fine. I thought you said this is a country of freedom of speech. That's her view. You can hold the view that you like. You can express that, freedom of expression. She has expressed that, and she has seen it right. She has identified it correctly. But because that's her view and that's her expression, she's got the courage to express that. They want to censor her. That's how they will deal with anyone. You speak against AIPAC. You cannot be, forget Muslims, forget Palestinians, forget any of that. If you are an American patriot, forget again other races. Let's just go to the Qawmu Fir'aun, a white person, privileged race in this country. If you start going against the Zionists in this country, you're not going to be able to hold office, at least for long. Okay. That's how they deal with people. She has identified, she speaks, this is how they behave. All right. This recent episode with the Islamic Republic that you all heard, and as the leader said, they got slapped pretty hard, and I think it's pretty clear they tried to do a little something last night. I was watching to see what's happening, and even the Israeli minister said this is a disgrace. The attempt is a disgrace. Okay, but that's not my point. Let's go read about what happened there. That episode is causing people to read into tashayyu'. Like, what's going on? Palestinians are not Shia. And the supporters of the Palestinians, whether it's in Lebanon, in Iraq, in Iran, in even Yemen. Yeah, Yemen is not identified as a Shia country, but some of the main leaders there are Shia, sure, at least as far as we know, they're Zaydi, they're not Ithna Ashari, as far as we know, because I do know, for those who don't know, some of the Zaydi tribes in Yemen, I personally knew the son of one of the shuyukh, the main sheikh, the main chief, if we may, in English, of a Zaydi tribe, an influential Zaydi tribe, with Shia Ithna Ashari studying in Qum. I knew him. I had seen him. But overall, that's not what we get. But everybody says these are Shias. People are wondering what's going on here. People are studying this. One of the descriptions of this world coming to an end is that أَنَّ الْأَرْضَ يَرِثُهَا عِبَادِيَ الصَّالِحُونَ, and it's happening before our eyes. This stage is done. Then there's something called people dying. There's different terms that are used. Everyone will pass on from this life. But then before the day of judgment, there's this something in between called raj'ah. Okay. There's something there where people are going to be, not all people, because the day of judgment is where everyone's going to be resurrected. Everyone's going to come back to life. But between everyone passing on from this life and the day of judgment, there's something called, we in the Shia, we refer to it as we have from our ahadith, raj'ah, the return. And a lot of details are not mentioned too much. Some of us have heard some of us have not. And honestly, I can't say I know it fully. I've researched it. I've read the ahadith. I haven't seen much discussion from our ulama on it. But some people are going to be resurrected. Some of the good, some of the bad, and things are going to happen. That stage is going to be over. Their lives are going to be taken again. And then it's the resurrection. When people are resurrected, all of us, all people from the beginning of time, from Adam and Eve, all the way to the last person that was born in this life, everyone's going to be resurrected. Right? When that happens, then people will witness this. إِذَا الشَّمْسُ كُوِّرَتْ وَإِذَا النُّجُومُ انْكَدَرَتْ. This change is going to be visible to all. God changing the material realm to something. يَوْمَ تُبَدَّلُ الْأَرْضُ غَيْرَ الْأَرْضِ. The day that this earth will turn into a different earth. How exactly? Descriptions are there. Some we don't fully understand. The seas, the waters, the mountains, they're going to change form. Exactly how? We are not going to know. But there's some description there. That change of the world, God states in the Quran multiple times, and He gives it as a warning for people, right? For all of us. For what? For taqwa. For taqwa. Be careful. Look, this world you're living in, and you think you know the mechanics of, you think you know how it functions. You think you know how, oh, if I do this, press these buttons, say these words to people, hide this thing, I can make money, I can earn, I can own, I can grow an empire, I'll rule the world. You think you know how it works. Look, this whole thing is going to cease to exist as you know it. It'll change. Okay. And the one who's going to change it is also going to change a couple of other things as well. On the day of judgment, at least. On the day of judgment, those who are not given permission cannot even speak. Just can't. Here, you could say whatever. You can speak against God, don't they? You can speak against God. You can say whatever the heck you want. That's God's design. You can do that. Day of judgment, you want to speak? You can't. You don't have control of this. That's a different system. You think you figured the whole thing out? You haven't. Brother, sister, in humanity. This is addressed to all, everyone, including us, of course. We are told that as well. Sometimes we call ourselves believers. Sometimes I worry about myself. Not sometimes, a lot of times. I worry about myself. Am I getting too comfortable with this label that I've given myself? I'm Muslim, I'm lover of the Ahlul Bayt, I'm Shia, I'm this, I'm doing good. God has warned us in the Quran about that, because guess what? That's been said before. That's what the Jews are saying today. They say, we're the chosen people. Yeah, God said, I preferred you, but you dealt with me in the way you did. You made the mistakes. It's not a blank check. It's not something you're going to receive, and no matter how you behave. For anyone that thinks that way, God has said in the Quran, in many verses, one of them in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَالَّذِينَ هَادُوا وَالنَّصَارَى وَالصَّابِئِينَ مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَعَمِلَ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا فَلَهُ أَجْرُهُ or فَلَهُمْ أَجْرُهُم, if I got the end right. It says the label is not important. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, that's the Muslims. وَالَّذِينَ هَادُوا, the Jews. The Nasara, the Christians. Sabi'in, the Sabians, a lot of us don't know too much about. They follow Prophet Yahya, apparently. I don't know too much either, but the little I've looked up, that's what it says about them. A little different, certain, I guess, faction, sect of maybe Christianity. I'm not too sure. I have questions myself. But they're named there. In another verse, Majus are mentioned, the Zoroastrians. It says these labels, even you as Muslims, labels don't count. Man amana billah. Do you really believe in him? Do you believe he's the Lord? Do you believe he controls? Do you believe what he has said is true? Do you believe that resurrection is true? Do you believe you're going to be held accountable for everything? Do you believe on the day of judgment you're going to stand there and say, God, I didn't do this. The hand that did it is going to speak and you can't shut it up. The tongue that spoke is going to speak, this time not under your control. God will tell the tongue, speak. Did you not say these words? Did he not use you? Did she not use you to slander this believer? To backbite against this person? To insult their spouse, their children, their parents? And we want to stop that tongue. We can't. We're not in control. If you believe in that, and based on that, عَمِلَ صَالِحًا, we have to identify the righteous deeds, the ones God has told us, and implement them, go by them. One of the things Atla Bajad used to repeatedly say, and I'm quoting him because this is where I heard first, but it's not from him. He learned it from Islam. He says one of our biggest problems is we don't believe. We don't believe. God says, I sit with those who remember me. You're sitting by yourself. You think you're alone. You remember God. God is with you right there. Like, when we read that, we don't believe that's true. That's why we don't do it. We don't do it. A lot of these things, it says, look, the Quran says, you implement what I tell you. I'm in charge, right? God says, I'm in charge. وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. You're in a difficult condition, and the only way out that you can see is to do something wrong, is to steal, is to lie, is to cheat, is to do something wrong, whatever it is. God says, don't, ittaqullah. If you don't do the wrong that you think is the only way out, I will create a way out for you. That's what the verse says. We read it. Do we believe it? If we believe it, we will implement it. We'll go by it. But it seems like we don't really believe God 100%. You know who believed God 100%? One of the stories in the Quran, there's plenty. One of them is Ibrahim. Ibrahim believed God. And he trusted God. He believed him and trusted him. They want to throw him in that fire. That story is just one of the best stories in the Quran. Allahu Akbar. He trusts God and he surrenders to God. These are all stages. You believe him, right? But then you're like, oh, I know it's true, but the difficulty, the trouble. One of the accounts, this part is not mentioned in the Quran. It says, the angel came to Ibrahim, said, do you want help? He said, Amma minka fala. From you, no. I don't want any help. Whatever he wants, I'm good with that. He trusted him. And God showed him right here. The fire that burns everyone doesn't burn Ibrahim. Trust in Allah. Believe, first of all, He can do all of that. He is capable 100% to do. إِنَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. That's been said. How many times have we heard that, repeated that, said that? But do we think that's true? He can do everything? Or like, well, He can, but not this thing. We hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses us with those higher stages of Iman that come with implementing the amount that we understand. We go by it. God will give us more. He will give us more Iman. And inshallah we get closer and closer to Him. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا سيد الخلق أجمعين حبيبنا حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أخيه وابن عمه ووزيره ووصيه وخليفته من بعده علي بن أبي طالب وعلى ابنته سيدة نساء العالمين وعلى سبطي الرحمة وسيدي شباب أهل الجنة الحسن والحسين. ثم نصلي ونسلم على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف القائم المهدي روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. For the hastening and the return of our Imam, let's recite the salawat. عباد الله أوصيكم وأوصي نفسي بتقوى الله العظيم. Brothers and sisters, I would like to advise myself first and foremost and all of you to be careful of the Lord. Be aware of His presence. Be aware of His closeness to us. وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. He's closer to us than our jugular vein. He is a witness to Himself, a witness to our thoughts, to our feelings, before it even reaches our limbs, our ears, our tongues. Be aware of that and be careful that He has not designed this world. If I can remember, recite a salawat, please. If I remember correctly from Surah Al-Qiyamah, أَيَحْسَبُ الْإِنسَانِ أَنْ يُتْرَكَ سُدًى. If I got the wording right there. Does the human being think they're just left, just created, we're just on our own, whatever happens, happens. No one's in charge, no accountability. Do something, say something wrong, mistreat someone. Behind closed doors, nobody's there, no one's going to hold us accountable. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not created the world in that way. Let's all be careful of that, be aware of that reality, and live our lives based on that, which is taqwa. That's what taqwa means. Be careful of God. Don't lose sight of Him. Don't forget He's there, because you're only seeing His names and His ayat and not He Himself. You're seeing Him through His names and ayat, but you can get distracted. Instead of the ocean being an ayah of Allah, instead of you being an ayah, سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْآفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ, we will show them the ayat of Allah in the afaq, and the horizons. Look around. The ocean is one, the mountains are another, the deserts, the forests, the jungles, the tropical regions, the farms, the orchards. Fil afaq, but then wafi anfusihim, within, God shows us. But the ayah of Allah turns into, oh, this is fascinating. Look at what nature has created. Whatever the heck nature is, what part of it is creating this? What is this thing you create? And then they call religion superstitious. What is this? You just created an entity out of nothing. What is this nature you're telling me about? What part of matter does that? Is it the atoms? Is it the subatomic particles? Is it the nucleus of the atom? Is it quantum level stuff? You've looked at all of it. All of it's changing, developing properties it didn't have. Who does that? Is it that the combination of it forms something? What combination? What planet? What creature? These myths that are in the making, and they make it sound scientific with scientific verbiage. But the reality is, it's a myth. That's a myth. Not that there's a God who does this. It's in your face, everyone's face, right there. But we lose sight of that because of the way God has designed it. One of the things that God says in the Quran is that we are hiding the day of judgment. You're not going to know when it's going to happen. That's exactly what we're finding. The scientists are studying the world. There's no sign. They say, 10 billion years from now, we predict maybe the sun's going to go out, or our star, or this, that. It's not going to be no 10 billion years from now. Just God has told us, that's how I've made it. You're not going to be able to know when it's going to end. This version of it, the 2.0, is going to be post-death. Taqwa is important. One of the areas of taqwa that we neglect, and it's connected to all areas. See, taqwa is not something you can have partially. If you have taqwa, then you have taqwa. If you don't have taqwa, then you don't. If it's partial, that means it's not really there. It's a lower grade of it. Nobody wants to deny what's there. But if you look, it's not really there. One of the areas of taqwa has to do with us living socially together. God has got instructions when it comes to that. One of those instructions is, there's plenty of them, obviously, plenty of them that we are all like slander. That's about social interaction. Don't say something wrong about someone that you know they never did. Okay. Don't badmouth them. Don't speak of something you saw they did in private, let the world know, to disgrace them, to give them a bad name. That's ghibah. These are all social obligations or forbiddances. There's plenty of those. Don't steal. Don't cheat. If you make a deal with someone, come to an agreement, don't try to change the wording because you realize you're going to have losses. Now you want to throw it back at them, and you know what you're doing is wrong. You agreed. The sale occurred. You can't take it back. Now you want to do something to... Don't do that. That's all social behavior that unfortunately, in Muslim countries, we see we violate each other as though there's no God. In Western countries, there's a God, the Fir'aun, that restricts you and you dare not within their structure. Right? Within their structure and their laws, because that law is violated. There's plenty of laws in Western countries that violate the rights of human beings that God has given them. There's plenty of that. I don't want to get into that. The point we're trying to make here is that there's plenty of social laws, guidelines, instructions. God has created all of us and has said, look, you need to treat my creations other than yourself in this way. And you need to treat yourself a certain way too. But that's not the social part. Social, it's dealing with other people. But one of the very important guidelines or an area of instructions of Islam that has been, for the most part, for a number of centuries, neglected is that we have got to collectively govern ourselves. It's our responsibility as human beings to do that. We are obligated to govern ourselves, and then when we want to do that, we are obligated to govern ourselves based on what God has instructed us. But the first step to that is us realizing we have an obligation to govern ourselves. Humanity for centuries, for millennia really, has not taken care of that. People generally don't care about this, which leaves room for people who do care about this. They don't care about what God says, but they care about being on top. And so the rulers of the world have been Fir'auns, have been kings, have been monarchs, have been oligarchs that disguise themselves as democratically elected leaders. They call for change to get the votes. Afterwards, no change of what they said, even close to it, occurs because it doesn't matter. It's just playing the game. There's a game. It's a political game. Why is this game being played? Why is it possible for it to be played? Because people don't really care about governing themselves. As long as business is going well, I'm able to go to the movies, I'm able to get my popcorn, I can get my burger. I'm good. I don't really care. Somebody else is getting squished. I don't care. We're dropping bombs on Vietnam. I don't care. These are all part of governing ourselves. Do we need to have a military or not? What is that military supposed to do? People need to decide those things and implement it together. It's our obligation. If we don't take that obligation, what's going to happen? Some people are going to come and do that and even disguise it as though it's our decision. It's not our decision. They say they take our taxpayer money and they send it to Israel. It's not even our taxpayer money anymore. It's debt. They don't have the money. There is no taxpayer money. It's just feeding the debt. They're just paying that, but they don't care. It created a system of like, okay, we'll just print dollars and send them wherever we want. But that's going to come and bite us. We're responsible for that. We as people, wherever we live, God has given us that responsibility. We don't take it upon ourselves, then the harms that come our way are partially our fault if we are not involved in governing ourselves, if we don't take care of that. Human society on a macro level, on a global scale, if you look, people do not care about governing. Some things happen, yeah, Gaza happens, people are out on the streets and demonstrating, yeah, that's great, that's an amazing thing, alhamdulillah, it's awesome to watch people being involved in this way, but is that really involvement? Coming out and chanting a few slogans? Are you governing yourself based on that? You don't even know what you're doing. like come out here, oh, we need to boycott. Okay, have you thought this through? Who thought this through? This idea of boycott. I challenge you, those of you who practice that, go and figure out where this came from. You heard some mumbo jumbo, this guy, oh, South Africa. Did you go and look at South Africa? Did you know what happened in South Africa? Do we know the apartheid is still there? It's just disguised. The politicians all look like they're from that area. But they don't control the banks. They don't control the funds. They don't control the economy. The economy is controlled by the same people that controlled the political sphere before. Now they're just controlling it from the back room, from behind that veil, disguised. Who thought this through? Like, oh, we're going to do this. Yeah, really? We brought South Africa to the apartheid regime to its knees. No, you didn't. That's not what brought the apartheid to its knees. Go there and talk to people who were part of that. I've been there. I've spoken to people who fought the apartheid police. I've been to Robben Island. I've looked at the prisoners that were there. Mandela was not the greatest fighter there. They pulled him out. He betrayed his people. That's why the West praises him. Anytime, the same countries that supported the apartheid are like, oh, Mandela's great. Well, he was on your terrorist list. How did he suddenly turn into a good person? Because of the boycott? Baloney. Because he agreed to what he called reconciliation, which means let them keep whatever they stole. I've been there. Go there yourself. Don't take it from me. District 6, go talk to the people who live there. Their homes were flattened and they were kicked out, taken to some no man's land because they resisted the apartheid regime. And it's still not given back. At least it was in 2011 I visited. I hope it's given back, but I don't really have much hope. There's no reason for hope. Are we governing ourselves? Are we thinking along those lines? Or are we comfortable, oh, as long as I'm doing well, to a certain degree, my family's doing well, because once it starts getting, we get selfish, then everything is selfish. Family, who cares about family? If I don't like my wife, if I find someone that looks prettier after 20 years, 30 years, dump her, get someone else, she's whining all the time. Or vice versa, she gets strong, she's financially more capable, and he's being a jerk, forget this guy. Islam says this, who cares? We'll go to the court, we'll figure it out, let the lawyers do whatever they need to do. It's selfish. Islam says people are obligated to govern themselves. We leave that to others. We don't care about it. Whoever takes it, it doesn't matter. Well, all of what is happening in the world is because people collectively are not involved. I tell you, if the same proportion of people, the same numbers you see that are voicing their opinions about what's happening, clearly the minority with the loudest, of course, mouths, and with the CNNs and the Fox Newses, they're able to project their voices. But in terms of the number of people, the vast majority, the dominant majority of the people of the world are against the wrong that is happening. Okay, if people ruled the world, would it look like this? Forget about being Muslim at this point. Forget that part. If the majority of the people of the world were actually the ones governing the world, would you see what you're seeing right now? No. It's because a minority is ruling and using the resources the way they want for themselves. The nature of getting more people involved, if you understand what that concept is, that means there's going to be less and less corruption. Recite salawat. And we have got to, as Muslims who have been blessed with this teaching, a lot of people, thank you so much, A lot of people don't know this. A lot of people don't have the guidance that Allah has given them because they haven't heard it or they've heard wrong things about it. You and I have the Quran. لِيَقُومَ النَّاسِ بِالْقِسْطِ. That's what the Quran says in Surah Al-Hadid. It says we sent all these prophets, these books, for what? لِيَقُومَ النَّاسِ. For people collectively to rise and make their society just. That's self-governance of the masses, of people. The reason why we're seeing this is because humanity has turned a blind eye to the teachings of God, this being one of the main ones. And I encourage us, brothers and sisters, to go and study Islam's teachings on governance. There's a lot of mumbo-jumbo baloney out there about what Islam says. Even concepts. I'll say something that for some of you it may even be like, oh my God, that wilayatul faqih, okay? There's so much mumbo-jumbo about what this is. Go figure out what it is. Go see what Islam has said about governance in general and then in various contexts during the time of prophets, during the time of imams. In the ghaibah of the imam. What is it? How are we supposed to do this? Go read it. Study it. Wallah, if it's from God, whatever is from God is the best solution for us. Whatever it is. He says, abstain from eating and drinking for a month. That's the best thing for you. Don't let anyone trick you and make you think otherwise. Allah has got this guidance for us. We've got to think about this, and we have a lot of homework to do when it comes to that, because a lot of people are becoming more and more aware that we got to do something, but what is it exactly that we need to do? One of the reasons why these smart but evil people are able to rule over populations that want to be involved. The American population prides itself in being involved. They call themselves a democracy. That means we are governing. The reality is they're not. Joe Average is not part of governing the U.S. They're just being fooled. Why? Because Joe Average did not understand these things thoroughly enough. And that smarter person, the genocide Joes, they will come and they will sweet talk you into things. They will make you think you're involved. They will make you think this is the right thing to do. And before you know it, it's almost too late to save and to salvage your country, your nation, your people, and the whole world. One of the things we need to wake up to, brothers and sisters, these are talks we need to have. The people of the world are the children of Adam and Eve. These borders that, north of this line, we don't care about them. That's baloney. South of this line, we don't care about them. East of this line, we don't care about them. West of that line, we don't care about them. We'll bomb them as long as we're all the same. We are all one body. We need to get out of these ignorant ways of thinking. Nationalism, racism. All of these are classifications that are wrong. We are all. God says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ اخْتِلَافُ أَلْسِنَتِكُمْ وَأَلْوَانِكُمْ. It's His sign that you have different colors and different languages. Stop mocking each other, making fun of each other, saying ill things toward each other because of the color of one's skin or language. It's all over the place. English speakers making fun of Germans and the other making fun of the Arab, or the Persian making fun of the Kurd, or the Kurd making fun of this, or the Turk making fun. What an ignorant way of thinking. God says these are my signs. Allamahul bayan. God taught mankind bayan and expression in all these beautiful variations with these letters that I can't pronounce. I can't pronounce your Urdu letters. You can't pronounce the Arabic ones. It's that different, yet it's bayan, it's expression, and God taught all of it. We have to grow up to these truths, and inshallah, one of the things that we need to do while we are awaiting the 12th Imam, moving in the direction that he is leading us towards, is to figure these things out, understand it conceptually, move toward it practically. We need to really start treating each other as brothers. Stop quoting Nahjul Balagha saying, oh, the Amir al-Mu'mineen Salamullah alayhi said to Malik that people are either your brothers in faith or brothers or equals in humanity, or whatever the language there is. And then in our actions, we're not like that. We don't care about people the same way. You say, oh, Amir al-Mu'mineen said a beautiful thing. Well, God said it in the Quran. Ali learned it from the Quran. Repeat those lines and act accordingly. Treat people like that. Feel toward people in that way. We need to do that. I need to do that. We all need to move in that direction. We hope that Allah helps us, guides us in doing so. Allahumma aghfir lil mu'minina wal mu'minat wal muslimina wal muslimat. الأحياء منهم والأموات تابع بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات إنك مجيب الدعوات إنك قاضي الحاجات إنك على كل شيء قدير بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. يا محسن قد أتاك المسيء أنت المحسن وأنا المسيء. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم. ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم. مثل الذين حملوا التوراة ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار يحمل أسفارا بئس مثل القوم الذين كذبوا بآيات الله والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. قل يا أيها الذين هادوا إن زعمتم أنكم أولياء لله من دون الناس فتمنوا الموت إن كنتم صادقين ولا يتمنونه أبدا بما قدمت أيديهم والله عليم بالظالمين. قل إن الموت الذي تفرون منه فإنه ملاقيكم ثم تردون إلى عالم الغيب والشهادة فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. فإذا قضيت الصلاة فانتشروا في الأرض وابتغوا من فضل الله واذكروا الله كثيرا لعلكم تفلحون. وإذا رأوا تجارة أو لهوا انفضوا إليها وتركوك قائما قل ما عند الله خير من اللهو ومن التجارة والله خير الرازقين. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إذا جاءك المنافقون قالوا نشهد إنك لرسول الله والله يعلم إنك لرسوله والله يشهد إن المنافقين لكاذبون اتخذوا أيمانهم جنة فصدوا عن سبيل الله إنهم ساء ما كانوا يعملون ذلك بأنهم آمنوا ثم كفروا فطبع على قلوبهم فهم لا يفقهون وإذا رأيتهم تعجبك أجسامهم وإن يقولوا تسمع لقولهم كأنهم خشب مسندة يحسبون كل صيحة عليهم هم العدو فاحذرهم قاتلهم الله أنى يؤفكون وإذا قيل لهم تعالوا يستغفر لكم رسول الله لووا رؤوسهم ورأيتهم يصدون وهم مستكبرون سواء عليهم أستغفرت لهم أم لم تستغفر لهم لن يغفر الله لهم إن الله لا يهدي القوم الفاسقين هم الذين يقولون لا تنفقوا على من عند رسول الله حتى ينفضوا ولله خزائن السماوات والأرض ولكن المنافقين لا يفقهون يقولون لئن رجعنا إلى المدينة ليخرجن الأعز منها الأذل ولله العزة ولرسوله وللمؤمنين ولكن المنافقين لا يعلمون يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تلهكم أموالكم ولا أولادكم عن ذكر الله ومن يفعل ذلك فأولئك هم الخاسرون وأنفقوا مما رزقناكم من قبل أن يأتي أحدكم الموت فيقول رب لولا أخرتني إلى أجل قريب فأصدق وأكن من الصالحين ولن يؤخر الله نفسا إذا جاء أجلها والله خبير بما تعملون الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات تابع بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر
الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الأول قبل الإنشاء والإحياء والآخر بعد فناء الأشياء، العليم الذي لا ينسى من ذكره ولا ينقص من شكره ولا يخيب من دعاه ولا يقطع رجاء من رجاه. اللهم إني أشهدك وكفى بك شهيدا، وأشهد جميع ملائكتك وسكان سماواتك وحملة عرشك ومن بعثت من أنبيائك ورسلك وأنشأت من أصناف خلقك أني أشهد أنك أنت الله لا إله إلا أنت وحدك لا شريك لك ولا عديد ولا خلف لقولك ولا تبديل، وأن محمدا صلى الله عليه وآله عبدك ورسولك أدى ما حملته إلى العباد وجاهد في الله عز وجل حق الجهاد، وأنه بشر بما هو حق من الثواب وأنذر بما هو صدق من العقاب. اللهم ثبتني على دينك ما حييتني ولا تزغ قلبي بعد إذ هديتني وهب لي من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. صل على محمد وآل محمد واجعلني من أتباعه وشيعته واحشرني في زمرته ووفقني لأداء فرض الجماعات وما أوجبت علي فيها من الطاعات وقسمت لأهلها من العطاء في يوم الجزاء إنك أنت العزيز الحكيم. اللهم
استغفر الله ربي واتوب اليه. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن عليا ولي الله. أشهد أن عليا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. يا محسن قد أتاك. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآله. الله أكبر. استغفر الله وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. حول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج واجعلنا من أنصاره وأشياعه والذابين عنه، واجعلنا من المستشهدين بين يديه طائعين غير مكرهين في الصف الذين عدت أهله في كتابك، فقلت صفا كأنهم بنيان مرصوص على طاعتك وطاعة نبيك وآله عليهم السلام. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. استغفر الله وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر.
الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآله. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآله. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. أستغفر الله وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله
وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام، وأسأله أن يتوب علي توبة عبد ضليل خاضع فقير بائس مسكين مستكين مستجير، لا يملك لنفسه نفعا ولا ضرا ولا موتا ولا حياة ولا نشورا. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من نفس لا تشبع، ومن قلب لا يخشع، ومن علم لا ينفع، ومن صلاة لا ترفع، ومن دعاء لا يسمع. اللهم إني أسألك اليسر بعد العسر، والفرج بعد الكرب، والرخاء بعد الشدة. اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمنك، لا إله إلا أنت. أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم عرفني نفسك، فإنك إن لم تعرفني نفسك لم أعرف رسولك. اللهم عرفني رسولك، فإنك إن لم تعرفني رسولك لم أعرف حجتك. اللهم عرفني حجتك، فإنك إن لم تعرفني حجتك ضللت عن ديني. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. وتوجه زيارة. السلام عليك يا رسول الله يا خاتم النبيين. السلام عليك يا ابن عبد الله يا باعث الهدى ويا رحمة للعالمين. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين ويا قائد الغر المحجلين. السلام عليك يا أسد الله الغالب يا علي بن أبي طالب. السلام عليك يا مولاتي يا فاطمة الزهراء يا سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا بضعة خاتم النبيين. السلام عليك وعلى أمك خديجة الكبرى جدة الأئمة. السلام عليك أيها الإمام الولي الناصح الزكي. السلام عليك يا أبا محمد الحسن بن علي. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك وأناخت برحلك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين وعلى أبا الفضل العباس أخ الحسين وعلى السيدة الحوراء زينب شريكة الحسين. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء. السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء. السلام عليك يا مغيث الشيعة والزوار في يوم الجزاء. السلام عليك يا شهيد شمس الشموس يا أنيس النفوس يا أيها المدفون بأرض طوس يا سلطان العرب والعجم يا علي بن موسى الرضا الراضي بالقدر والقضاء. السلام عليك وعلى آبائك السبعة وأبنائك الأربعة ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا مظهر الإيمان. الأمان 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 من فتن الزمان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك وجعلنا من أنصار ظهورك وأعوانك. السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. دعاء إمام. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكن أرضك طوعا وتمتع فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. برايخ شنودي إمام زمان أبو الأنطر صلوات الله.